Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Sean here with BlueRidgeSilverhound, and today our highlight spotlight coin, our hot light spotlight highlight coin, is the 1965 Washington quarter. Believe it or not, this is a coin that has a very, very deep, rich, storied, past, I suppose. Some of it not too flattering, because when the U.S. Mint had decided to switch over compositions from the 90% silver compositions to the now copper nickel clad in a way of saving costs or just saving money in general, which it sounds like they might be ready to do another round of that or just eliminate coins altogether, right? We don't want to talk about that. But, of course, that conversation come up, back in the early 60s. It was just way too expensive to produce anything with any sort of silver anymore. So, in kind of a swerve, they elected to go with a copper nickel clad planchet coin for both or all three of the, three. The Roosevelt dime, the Washington quarter, which is what we're talking about today, and of course the Kennedy half dollar. Didn't quite eliminate all of the silver, but they did go to 40%. So, pretty substantial type of change here, going from 64 to 65. There's a lot of transitional processes that were happening, and there were a lot of things that didn't quite work out the way they should. And that's why I think 1965 quarters might pose a really fun kind of treasure hunt. Even if you're just casually looking through rolls of quarters and you come across a 65, I'm happy to say that there's quite a fair amount of things to be on the lookout for. Just for looking for premium specimens of the coin or cherry picking a special mint set, which, by the way, it's the first year that the mint had done that. They got away from doing proof sets, went to a special mint set due to a public outcry that no proof set was going to be out. So in kind of a last minute change, they produced a special mint set, which is a hybrid of a proof strike and a kind of like a satin business strike. So there is that. But also there's a few noteworthy type of varieties, a couple big double to dies you need to be on the lookout for, in addition to a wide array of errors. And again, a lot of it has to do with the transitional change from the outgoing 90% silvers to this new copper nickel clad. So there were a lot of trial and errors going on during this time, and that's why it's going to be a coin that you need to pay extra close attention to for some of the big finds today. One of the big ones, of course, worth in excess of $10,000 in today's collectibles market. But let's go ahead and start out, of course, with the actual coin itself. The 1965 Washington quarter actually had quite a huge mintage. 1,819,717,540 total pieces were produced for this year, which eclipses the 1964 Washington quarters, which still had a pretty large mintage, collectively between Philadelphia and Denver coins, over 1.2 billion. All right, but a pretty notable change in the mintage figures, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of the 1964 coins, which by the way were produced all the way into 1965 to begin with, were being just hoarded out of circulation. The moment that people found out that 90% silver was going away, they were hoarding up that coin. But at the same time, they were ignoring this coin that you see here, which is unfortunate. And that's the big reason why there aren't a ton of premium specimens in today's market, whether you're buying them singularly, raw, or in rolls. Good luck with that, by the way. And of course, there's special mint sets. The U.S. Mint didn't make a dedicated mint set like they used to, where you could find a business strike coin to add to a collection. It just didn't happen. But Yeah, pretty huge mintage. Again, over 1.8 billion pieces made, and they were only made at the Philadelphia Mint. There were no Denvers produced for this year, and that's especially notable because a lot of the coins that come through the Philadelphia Mint, there were a lot of errors and varieties that you could have found in there, and that's going to springboard into what we're going to talk about today. But starting out with finding a really nice specimen of a business strike coin. Okay, these things are actually quite valuable to the right collectors. There's a collector base called Registry Set, folks, that actually collect the highest graded examples of every date of their respective series. And normally they pay a lot more money than what I guess the prototypical non-collector, would see. Like, would you believe that someone would pay $2,000 for this coin right here? No, it sounds pretty silly in retrospect. But indeed, the highest grade of these coins in NGC, Mint State 68 Plus, is the finest known grade of this coin. In a PCGS holder, I believe it's 68. So there are high-end examples that exist, albeit a very, very small number of those. These things were minted with pretty decent quality. However, when you got up to the much more elite level of grades, like 67 and higher, they were next to impossible to find. Me personally, I found my fair share of 65s and 66s, but again, half of this battle is going to be finding actual raw mint state examples out there, because a lot of what you do find are the special mint set coins, which are going to be better quality anyways. But this particular example in this NGC slab you see here sold actually just over a year ago, January 30, 2022, for the tune of $2,593.12 through greatcollections.com. So again, this is the type of coin, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be headed toward a registry set. All right. And again, some of the most irrational amounts of money are being poured into registry set level of coins like this one here. So that's how we're going to start out the video, is just talking about an example of a really nice, just non-variety, non-error 1965 Washington quarter. So quite a bit of value here. Me personally, it would be insanity just to go out and try and find a premium example of this coin raw, so that way you can grade it. It's not actually the best utilization of your time and money, because it's really tough. It's tough to kind of meet that expectation at the top. So here is a number of coins that I think are going to be a little bit more realistic for you guys to look for, and these are all very highly coveted. They're going to be very valuable. And, there are certain cases where grade really doesn't matter a whole lot. Now, grading certainly helps. It's going to make the difference of you making a few $100 or making $1,000. So grading still plays a role in some of these coins. But most importantly, just finding an example is what matters. Now, the coin that you see here on screen, still a 1965 Washington quarter, but this is probably more along the lines of what we find out there in circulation, and boy, is it pretty well circulated. It's not the perfect example of this coin. However, what if I told you that a few years ago that this particular example, this very example here, sold for over $400. You guys probably think I'm crazy. And sometimes I am. Sometimes you gotta be a little bit cray-cray in the brain to do what I do here on YouTube. But this particular coin is a very well-known variety. This is a doubled die obverse FS101. So it's one of the more notable cherry picker's guide varieties that could only be found on this particular date. Now, a few of the things you're going to look out for and keep in mind, in much lower condition states, these particular varieties might be a little bit harder for you to see. Now, for the FS101, there are things like you can see some pretty nice crazy notching in this doubled die, and primarily it is isolated to the word Liberty on the obverse of the coin. You can even see a few scratches here on the left side of the screen. Of course, this particular example here is far from perfect. You'll also come across some pretty substantial doubling in the motto "In God We Trust." Okay, so you can see quite a bit of notching, stretching of all of these letters here. And then you could probably see a little bit of doubling on the date as well. You could see it a lot better on coins that are in much nicer condition. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the bigger varieties to be on the lookout for the 1965 Washington quarter. Now, the one that we have here is graded PCGS VF30. Okay, it's straight up, right out of circulation. This one sold actually in 2015 for $424.60 on Great Collections. And I could only imagine how much a coin like this would sell for today, because there aren't too many of them that's known in the marketplace. It's actually quite a rare variety, and that's the big reason why that even well-circulated pieces like this one still tend to sell for many multiple hundreds of dollars. So look out for this one. The good news is we have one other big doubled die to look out for. This is the FS102. Now, this is a very unspectacular doubled die. And the big reason why I'm not showing you any close-ups is that there's really not a whole lot of, splashy dynamics to this double die that you need to see. If you want to know more about it, you can either go one of two places. You could go onto PCGS's website, take a look at this coin under the Varieties tab specifically, and then you can get in close to things like the motto and Liberty and the date, and you can see for yourself. You could also go on like VarietyVista.com or Double the Die and take a look at the close-ups and the various die markers for this one here. I'm not going to show it to you because, the few images that I do see online, a lot of them are on distributors' websites, and I just prefer that you guys go there so that way you get all the die markers and everything's all written up perfectly. But check this out, Mint State 65. It's one of the premier grades of this variety. It ended up selling for $2,306.25. The important part of this is when you compare it to the graded non-variety that we saw a few minutes ago, it's actually a very pricey coin in Mint State 65, whereas that Mint State 68 Plus is just a registry set coin with no variety. So I could only imagine that, say, if this variety was in a Mint State 67 or 68 holder, that we might be talking a $5,000 to $10,000 coin all on its own. So look out for this one. Again, check out some of those websites to examine much better close-ups than what I'm able to provide to you. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right into some of the notable errors that people have found and have subsequently sold. Now, every single piece was sold by Heritage Auctions, so you're going to get some pretty nice close-ups. You're going to get a photo of the graded holder in addition to the sales sheet page on that particular item. So we have a 1965 Washington quarter, and as far as I know, this is the only example that's known to exist. This is a flip over double struck error. So the coin was struck once. The coin didn't eject properly after the strike. It actually flipped over like a pancake, and then the mid-press struck it a second time. So that's why you have the reverse image on the obverse here, and then vice versa. So a very, very radical looking variety. And take a look at the coin. It has a little bit of circulation wear, but I believe this is still a mid-state coin. This one right here, as you can see, NGC graded, flip over in collar, double struck, mint error, Mint State 60. So Mint State 60 is not a grade that you typically see on the market that much anymore. As a matter of fact, graders prefer not to use 60 because it's a very divisive grade. It's like, well, it looks more AU than it does Mint State 60. And then some people will say, well, it looks more like Mint State 62 or 63 than it does 60. So it's a very controversial grade, even though it exists within the Sheldon grading system. But it's worth noting that this one is a pretty nice high-end example. So where did this one end up at? How about $470 this time around? Not too bad for just a simple change find. It sold back in 2014. So again, being that is the only known example of a double struck in collar or a flip over event that I have seen in the last 10 years, this coin is probably worth a little bit more money than this today in today's collectibles market. So that is just about 9 years old for that coin. The next one that we have here is one that I haven't seen pop up too often either. This is actually a very rare one, and it's on a special mint set coin. Now, it is a 1965 because it was found in a 1965 special mint set, but you can see that this one has a pretty nice sized cud die break that covers the entire date. Again, it's a very spectacular looking error, and the fact that it's on a SMS coin speaks volumes. You know, SMS and proof errors by themselves are all quite valuable. They're just not supposed to happen because these coins are produced with some of the best care and quality that you could possibly imagine. So this one right here is a Mid-State 64 obverse cut die break as noted on the label. Shows no date. And it is an SMS, but they do say it's a 1965 in the actual listing here. So this one right here sold way back in 2007 for a blistering sum of $661.25. Again, we're talking 16 years ago. The whole collectibles market landscape today is so much more different. You know, I would probably put a 2x valuation on that. If Fred Weinberg had sold this on the Heritage auction show last year, it probably would have commanded anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500. And again, it's an error that you just don't see. I think the mint caught this early when it happened, and then they yanked those dies out of service. And replace them with fresh dies. So again, a very elusive error. The next one that we have here, very cool, man. I mean, you know, you got to be a fan of strike through events. Here's one right here that was struck through a fragment of cloth. All right, you can actually see the cross stitching of the cloth struck onto the coin. And yes, this is indeed a business strike example. So this one was probably found in a bank bag many decades ago or in a roll, but there's no denying that this would be one hell of a find if you're able to pull this one off. But this one was one of the Fred Weinberg pieces from his collection sold last year on Heritage. Mid-State 62, 30% struck through cloth operas. Again, another coin to be on the lookout for, or any strike through errors for that matter. This one sold for $780. And you can see July 5th. This was during the Independence Day week when Fred Weinberg had sold a good chunk of his collection last year. All right, so the last few coins are all quite spicy. We have this one here, 1965 Washington quarter, struck through two staples on there. You have one on the obverse and you will have one on the reverse as well. They're not retained. They had fallen out at some point from what it looks like. But again, even the coin is slightly off center as well. So there's a lot of things going on here with this one. Now, it's in an older annex holder, and it's AU50, which indicates that this coin had circulated a good deal. It does show damaged, so there's probably some scratches or something on the coin that I didn't see in the prior shot. But yeah, pretty interesting right here. I mean, again, this is an awesome find. You know, when you're able to come across something like this, it's pretty unmistakable that you have something really special. This one sold for $1,410. Way back in 2013. And again, that's also accounting for the fact that it is damaged. Okay, it's not a problem-free example. But shoot, when you have two struck through staples, one of them is retained. It's probably the one on the reverse. I mean, this is a very neat, very important error to the community. The next one that we have here, this is just a simple broad strike. However, this is on a special mint set coin. Again, another big time error on a specialty strike coin is a big deal, and this is a very nice specimen at that. This one right here, Mid-State 66 star. And you can see it says SMS, Broad Strike, Mint Error, everything on there. It's a very pretty coin. And this one surely did sell for a good chunk of change. Sold 11 years ago for $1,057.50. And I would consider and say that it's probably worth more than that by today's collectibles market standards. A couple more left here. We have a 1965 Washington quarter that struck on some sort of coppery planchet. And you're right, it is. This is actually a planchet intended for Lincoln cents. However, I think this is one that was punched out using quarter dies out of that strip as opposed to using Lincoln cent dies, because the overall coin is not too much smaller. You still have a full rim on the obverse, full date, full liberty. You don't have a ton of general weakness, but on the reverse, you have a uniface, which means there were two planchets stuck together that were struck at the same time. So there's probably a mated pair with just the reverse on there that would kind of like, lock and key, kind of like fit together like a puzzle here. But very interesting coin. Struck on cent planchet, 100% uniface reverse. It's a 64 red, which is a pretty amazing high grade. And this one sold for $1,800 just recently in 2021. So a very impressive coin here, but it's not the most impressive because we do have the Big Daddy transitional error. All right. So we know that the mint had transitioned from the 90% silver compositions. And believe me, if we're talking manufacturing here, there's going to be a number of 90% silver quarter planchets laying all across the floor, and they're going to be under machinery, under racks and storage bins and things like that. So fast forward a year later, when they're producing 1965 quarters, if they come across some of these 90% planchets, they're just going to toss them in with all the copper nickels, and they're going to produce more of these. Because, again, just to kind of preface what I talked about earlier about mintages, between 64 and 65, between those two dates, well in excess of 3 billion coins were produced. All right, 75% of that 3 billion were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. So, that's a pretty staggering number. Again, the world's in a perfect place. When a Mint employee picks up, these planchets that are sitting around on the floor, I can imagine, and I could see them just tossing it in. It's like they'll just go ahead and strike them and then circulate them. So this 1965 here, which was intended to be a copper nickel clad planchet, was actually struck on one of the leftover 90% silvers. And that's why they call it a transitional error. So these coins will have a nice bright white surface to them, whereas the copper nickels are going to have more of a dark gray silver type of hue to them. And then you'll look at the edge and it'll be silvery white color as well. This particular example, graded mint state 62, transitional on silver planchet, mint error, also dated 1965. There were a number of these that have sold over the last 10 years. This is one of the more pricier ones here at $16,800. So there have been other examples, lower grades with circulation wear that have sold for like $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. There were other ones that sold at just over $10,000. So these coins have a tremendous amount of overall secondary market value. If you were able to find one of these, they're kind of life-changing money. I know to a lot of people are going to say, well, 10 grand ain't that much. But if it was found by someone who makes $2,000 a month, 10 grand is a lot of money, guys. So yeah, this is a pretty incredible error that people are still finding today. They're either going through 90% silver stock to look for these, or they're just coin roll hunting for these. All right, same with all of the Kennedy half dollars, all of the transitional events there. People are finding 1971 Kennedys, even still to this day, that were struck on 40% planchets. And ladies and gentlemen, those are easily $3,000 to $5,000 a piece. So there's a lot of money to be had here. Looking through your coins, 1965 is a benchmark year for the transition of our coinage, where we have exited the silver period of coinage and went into this newer low budget kind of tier of manufacturing. So, wow, incredible. So you guys have some work to do. Look out for these, but don't let it be the total focal point of your hunting. This is just one particular date with a myriad of different things to look out for. There's plenty of other things to look out for. Don't continuously step over the $5 bill, the $10 bill, just so you can look for the $5,000 bill. All right, it doesn't happen that way. Look for all of them. That's it. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Hopefully you enjoyed today's content. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And come check me out on TikTok as well at Blue Ridge Silverhound. And also, I sell on Whatnot. We'll be back again May 26th with another coin auction and a huge silver giveaway to commemorate my 3-month anniversary. I know it sounds silly, but it's my way of giving back to the community. So come check that out. I'll have my referral link down below so you can score yourself $15 in store credit that you could use right away on any purchase, whether it's with me or one of the other great Whatnot sellers on there. So that's it. You guys take care. Enjoy the hobby. We are always collecting each and every single day. You guys take care.